Environmentalists tell us that the next world war will not be fought over oil or money or political boundaries or religion. It will be fought over water. Water is a very, very scarce commodity, and it always has been. And in fact, in the parasha that we read this week, parasha Toldot, we see what an important role water plays. Our forefather Yitzchack travels, he goes to the land of the Philistines, he becomes very, very successful and influential, and they become jealous of him. And he's forced to leave town and to go live in the valley. And there he undigs the wells that his father Abraham had originally dug, and which the Philistines had filled with earth, and he renames them. He gives them the original names that his father has given them. And then he finds new wells. His shepherds, those who work for him, dig a well, and the shepherds of the Philistines argue, and they say, no, it's not your well, it's our well, it's our water. And because of this argument and this discussion and this argument that they have, the well is called Asek, which means a whole business, a whole discussion. They then discover a second well, and again there's an argument. And this time the well is called Sitna, which means hatred. A little bit later on, a third well is discovered by Yitzchack and his men, and there is no argument about this well whatsoever, and he names the well Rechovot, which means openness, expansiveness. Now, of course, there are no details in the Torah that are unnecessary. Why do we need to know all of this business about the wells? That Yitzchack renamed the wells the same name that his father Abraham had given them. Why do we need to know the names of these three wells? What's the point? And Nachmanides tells us in the beginning of his commentary on Bereshit that there is a principle. Ma'aseh avot siman lebanim. What happens to the fathers, to the ancestors, is an indication as to what will happen to their children. What happens to the forefathers and the mothers, our ancestors, is a precursor of what's going to happen to us as the Jewish people. And therefore the commentators tell us that these three new wells represent the three Batei Mikdash, the three temples. In the times of the first temple, which was built by King Solomon, there was an Asek. There was a whole argument. And this argument was between the leaders. Just like in the case of Yitzchack, it was between the shepherds of the Philistines and the shepherds of Yitzchack. In other words, a shepherd is a leader. They had an enormous argument. There was a lot of quarreling in the times of the first temple, an Asek. And this ultimately led to the destruction of the first temple. In the times of the second temple, there was quarreling. But this quarreling went right down to grassroots level, where your average man, your lay person, was arguing. And in this instance, the Torah doesn't say there was an argument between the shepherds of Yitzchack and the shepherds of the Philistines. It just says they argued about it, implying that even the common man was arguing about it. And in the times of the second temple, there was sinat chinam. There was causeless hatred amongst the population. And therefore, the second well is called sitna, which means hatred. However, when a third well is discovered, there's no argument about it. And that's called rechovot, which means expansiveness, as if I'm not being hemmed in. And this is a prophecy for the third Beit HaMikdash, which, please God, will be built speedily in our times by Melech HaMashiach, the Messiah. And there'll be no argument about this whatsoever. People will have let go with their petty squabbles and their arguments, and there'll be expansiveness. And the meaning of that name, rechovot, expansiveness, means if there is argument and if there is quarreling, it doesn't matter how big a house is. It doesn't matter how big a country is. There's not enough space for everybody. But if everybody gets along, then even if the space is very, very narrow, it's rechovot. I feel I have expansiveness because I'm not rubbing up against you the whole time. I'm not arguing with you the whole time. And therefore, these three wells are not just wells, but they indicate the well from which we draw spiritual sustenance, the Beit Mikdash. But why does the Torah have to tell us that the original wells which Abraham had dug, Yitzchack redug them, he took out of the earth. He took the earth out from which the Philistines had filled up these wells, and he gave them the very same names. Why is that significant? And I saw once a most beautiful explanation of this. After the Second World War, there were many Rosh Yeshivas, heads of great yeshivas in Lithuania, Poland. They fled. Some of them survived the Holocaust. They came to America, and they came to the land of Israel, and they rebuilt their yeshivas. What did they name their yeshivas? Well, there was the Mir Yeshiva, there was the Ponevezh Yeshiva, there was the Telz Yeshiva. Those are the same names that those yeshivas had in Europe. They didn't rename them. They gave them exactly the same names. What were those great rabbis saying? They were saying to the Nazis, you may have destroyed a great quantity of us, but you have not destroyed our spirit. We keep going. Those very wells that you destroyed, those very wells that you filled up, we have dug them again, and we're going to call them exactly the same name. And that's what Yitzchack was telling the people of the Plishtim. You think you can dig in our wells? You think you can cover us over? You think you can destroy our history? It's not going to be that way. We are going to come back. We are like the phoenix that is reborn from the ashes. We were born again, and we're going to be the same thing. We're going to be the same name, the same wells, and we're going to flourish even more than we did from the beginning. So these wells is not just a story about one man and his desire to find water in the place where water was scarce. This is a story about the traditional Torah heritage of the Jewish people. The fact that we're able to get up from our downfalls to rebuild again and to name those wells the same names that we gave them before. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.